All right. So today we're going to be kind of going over some of the expectations for your first assignment, which is going to be an annotated bibliography. And we'll kind of go through all of the expectations and everything like that. But essentially, the idea here is that you're going to be like reading and summarizing and reflecting on numerous articles that I have kind of pulled together that talk about a lot of different issues that come up during the writing process. So, first thing we're going to go and take a look at is the assignment sheet. This will also be linked on the Moodle page, but you can see it here. And this has kind of all of the expectations for the assignment. So it is needs to be 2 pages long. And basically, the way I have it set up for the first couple, like the first 2 weeks of the semester, is kind of like this little speed run of the writing process, basically to give you a sense of like what do you mean we're going to be moving from drafting to like peer feedback and revision and so on. So this is kind of like just a nice entry point into working through that process. So it's a 2 page length. That does mean you need to get to the bottom of that 2 pages. A page and a half won't cut it. A page and then like 3 lines away from the bottom, you want to get to at least that 2 full pages. So just make sure that you have that full page length there. And that's a minimum requirement, right? You are more often than not going to likely go a little bit over that minimum page count. So if you go into 2.5 or 3 pages, that's fine. But under that is a no-go. It's kind of just directed toward like fellow academics or peers. We're going to talk a little bit about like the genre of the annotated bibliography. If you have written one of these in the past or have seen them, again, the idea is just kind of like to reflect on a source, give a somebody who isn't familiar with it a sense of like what is the source about, and maybe why it would be beneficial to read it. We're going to be working with MLA style. We'll be talking about that over the next week or so, and then the due date is here. So, the kind of like general learning objectives, you want to learn about like different documentation styles. So, we're starting off with MLA at the beginning of the semester, and then we'll be shifting into APA, which is another documentation style for doing your citations and everything. And like I said, you're going to be kind of like summarizing and responding to text. And a lot of this is about having this kind of metacognitive awareness of your writing process, being able to read what other people have to say about writing and then reflect on what that might mean for you. What might you learn from it? What are the takeaways and so on and so forth. So you have an assignment description here. It really is pretty straightforward. You're going to be summarizing these sources, responding to them, and I have some additional tips here about what kinds of articles you might want to choose. You're going to be really working with them. You're going to be annotating those articles to prepare you for the bibliography. You're going to probably read through them several times to really get a sense of like what are the key points that you want to summarize in your entry for each of them. So I would recommend choosing articles that touch on issues that you think are particularly interesting or meaningful, or that you feel like would be helpful for you to learn more about. Maybe if there's something that you're struggling with, um, that would be a great way to start saying, okay, I want to really work on this particular writing skill. And this is like the jumping off point for doing that. And then at the bottom, there is a rubric here. It's like on a scale of 4 levels. And kind of the main things that I'm looking for are like, did you hit that page count? Are you following MLA formatting? Are you making stylistic choices that are professional and appropriate? We're going to be talking a lot about genre and the idea of there being genre expectations. So if you go and look at other annotated bibliographies and you get a sense of, what are professional writers who work within this genre of the annotated bibliography, what kinds of stylistic choices are they making? How consistent is their formatting? Those are the kinds of things that I want to see you reflecting and emulating as you're working on drafting and formatting your bibliography. Um, there are going to be some options that are available to you for articles to choose from. But if you decide to go beyond and identify a source that you would be interested in writing about, making sure that you choose one that is appropriate. And the most important piece here is that there's a careful balance between effective summary of and response to the article content, meaning that you're not just kind of copying line for line everything that was in the article, right? At that point, you would just rather read it yourself. Instead, what you need to do is summarize what are the key points. What is the main argument that the writer is making? Are there examples that they're using? How do they kind of support their argument? So you want to summarize that piece, but then you want to tie it back to, okay, well, so what? Did you learn anything from it? Why is this a beneficial source? That's the general idea, that you just want to summarize those key points without kind of like getting too lost in the details of the source, that you're able to identify the main point, kind of summarize it concisely, and then tie it back to why you feel like it's a valuable source, um, and illustrating like kind of analysis and reflection of those major points. So that is the assignment sheet here. Please, please, like take the time to read through it and let me know if you have questions, because these are the expectations for the assignment. So again, there's major requirements. So you're going to pick between 2 to 3 sources within the field of writing and composition studies. I'll show you where you can find the list of available topic choices on Moodle. But again, it'll be that MLA formatting, 2-page requirements. Get to that full 2 pages, right? And then, as you can see, you're going to be summarizing the main findings of the source and then kind of reflecting on, what might it mean for you as somebody who's in this course learning to write. Why are we doing this? For me, like, reflection on the writing process is essential. Um, these stages of the writing process all come with different barriers or challenges. Some folks might find that one part of the process is easier than another one is. So, for example, for me, I do okay with I do really well at finding sources. I'm very strong at integrating those sources into my writing. I'm pretty good at like using a drafting table to or some sort of outline method, and I'm very, very strong at giving feedback to other people. I'm very weak at revising. That is probably the biggest barrier that I personally face as a writer. And no matter how long somebody has been doing it for, um, doesn't matter if somebody's like a professional novelist or a copywriter or a journalist or what have you. There's always going to be kind of sticking points that could use improvement over time. So, a big part of why we are reading these sources and thinking about them is because, again, a lot of what the authors in these articles are going to touch on is backed by research, and also is kind of getting us to think about, like, yeah, these are normal problems that everyday writers face. And here's how I can kind of like reflect on that and maybe come up with tangible, concrete strategies for tackling those issues in the future. From there, if you're interested in additional sources that talk about issues within writing studies, I definitely recommend checking these sources out. This is like a database that specifically has articles and chapters and things like that that are specific to writing and composition studies. If you are somebody who's really interested in kind of going out on your own and finding a source, this could be one way to do it. Additionally, you could look at some of the resources that the Undergraduate Writing Center has. And most universities or colleges have a writing center. So you could even look at things from like UNC, for example. And keep in mind that even if you don't find a source to summarize and reflect on from um, any of these journals or what have you, these tools and resources are still just kind of here to support you. So, yeah, I really do recommend taking the time to schedule a visit to the Undergraduate Writing Center. I can't sing their praises enough. I am going to be putting a video, like a tutorial video on the Moodle page about some people say Zotero. I don't know. I say Zotero. But in any case, this is like a tool that I wish somebody had shown me when I was an undergraduate student. I started using it while in the master's program, and I I will live and die by Zotero. It is very, very useful, and you can use it as a way to kind of um, organize your files for readings that you're doing in your classes, annotate them, and take notes. So your assignment for today, and we'll be doing more of these later on in the semester, involves annotating. And if you're somebody who wants a lot of different options for that, like sticky notes, highlighting, things like that, you can use something like Zotero to do that. And additionally, you can kind of input the information for a source so that it can help you create citations. So if you're somebody who really struggles with MLA or APA, check out that video. It's optional, but this might be a kind of useful tool for you. So I wanted to point that out. Importantly, I have sample annotated bibliography. So again, when we're talking about making kind of like professional scholarly or professional stylistic choices that really boost your credibility as, a scholarly professional academic writer, one of the best ways that you can kind of get a sense of how to do that is to look at examples of other people's work. So Purdue Owl actually has an example that shows what an annotation might look like. We've got another one here from the UNC Writing Center. So I definitely recommend like reading through these things, not just to get a sense of like some of the formatting. That's something we'll continue to talk about, but really to get a sense of like what does it look like to kind of summarize, 20 some pages from a source and condense that into just a few sentences, right? So that is definitely something that I recommend taking a look at. From there, for your next assignment, you're going to be working on annotating the articles that you want to work with for this assignment. And again, you want to select sources from at least two different topic areas. So, what do I mean by that? So, under week one, under today's class resources, you can see the article choices for the annotated bibliography. Once you open that, these are all different topic areas, and I'm going to be adding more sources here um, shortly. But what you want to do is pick at least two sources. You can work with anywhere between 2 to 3 for this assignment, but you need at least two. And I want you to pick from two different topic areas. So don't choose like both of the sources on metacognition, right? If you're interested in that, you could have like one source that you work with on metacognition and then maybe one on effective peer review. But essentially, I want you to at least think about two different kind of topics that is there for you. These will also be available on Perusal. So if you want to use that platform for your annotation, you absolutely can. And then the assignment is available here. So you can open up the directions for that. So you can see it here. Again, you're going to choose those two sources, listing some of the citation information, like the title of the source, the author, and the year. And then when you annotate the article, you're going to want to give me a link to it. So if you annotate it by hand and then you scan it, or you annotate it again using a software like Zotero or Adobe, if that's something that you have access to, I think it's on some of the computers in the library. Um, you can upload that to your Google Drive and then link it there. If you are doing your annotations through Perusal alongside other people, then just give me the links to that here and make note of it so that I know to go find your annotations. So that's kind of the assignment expectations there. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. But yeah, I want you to like by hand just kind of start taking notes on like what are some of the key points that you're noticing? Maybe highlight like important sections. Don't just highlight the whole thing, right? But I want you to kind of illustrate where are the areas that you're already beginning to reflect on some of the key points that the authors are making. So engaging in a close reading. So with that said, if you have any questions, just let me know. But otherwise, I'll see you at our next class.